What's up, Internet? It's Mr. Byrne. I'm back again. We are here to talk about this guy. This is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. You can see him right there. He is, as you can see by the sunglasses, one cool dude. So we talked about him quite a bit in music class last week. He was born in 1756, died in 1791. Kind of a young man when he died, but he crammed a lot of life in there for sure. So lots of you asked for some cool little stories about Mozart besides the ones that we talked about in class, so I'm here to share some of those with you. Number one, he was left-handed. Let's see, he was a tenor. He sang right about middle voice, a little bit higher from where I sing. And just kind of a generally crazy guy. He's kind of gross, liked silly humor. He was very close with his brothers and sisters. And of course, he was a genius, like we talked about. He could do things that no other musician could do at the time. He's very good at just listening to music and being able to write it down. There's a story about him going to Rome, to where the Pope preached in church in a big cathedral in Rome, and they had this secret piece of music that they only played on certain days of the year, and they wouldn't let anybody have copies of the music. Mozart, when he was a young man, he was 14 years old, he went there with his father, and he heard this piece of music. Well, of course, Mozart did what Mozart would do, and he wrote it all down, and it was almost perfect, and he was able to sneak a copy out of Rome. And the Pope heard about it. And back then, even now, but especially back then, the Pope was not a person that you wanted to mess with. You could get in big trouble. So the Pope heard about it, brought him back to Rome, said, you need to come and talk to me. And you know what the Pope did? You think he'd get thrown in jail or something like that? Nope. Pope gave him a big reward and had him play a special concert for him. There's another story about how he wrote this opera. Now, Mozart wrote a lot of operas. It was very, very common. His operas are very, very popular. He wrote one in particular. It's called Don Giovanni. Now, it was in the Italian language, which is kind of where popular operas were at the time. But this is about a guy, he's a young, rich guy, and he was kind of a jerk. He was really, really mean to all of his friends. He was really mean to his girlfriend. And he goes throughout his life being really, really mean to people. And then he ends up learning a really, really harsh lesson. This opera was really, really popular at the time, and it's still very, very popular today. It gets performed a lot, and he was asked to write this opera. So he did, and he's writing the music. He's working very, very hard on it. But some of you might be able to relate to this. I know I certainly can. Sometimes when you got a big project, you get kind of tired of it, and then you put off performing, or you put off writing some of it. You put off getting it done, and Mozart had done that. And the day that it was going to be premiered was coming up very soon. Mozart still hadn't finished it. And the part that he hadn't finished was this part called the overture. Now, the overture is really, really important because it starts off the whole opera. It's the very first thing you hear, and it kind of offers a preview of all the stuff that's going to be coming up. And he hadn't written it yet, and it's supposed to be premiered. And so it turns out that it's the day before it's supposed to be premiered. Mozart still hadn't finished it. So he asked his wife to help him out. He said, hey, I need to stay up all night. I need to finish this. Can you help keep me awake? And so she said, sure. So she brings him a few drinks. She reads him some stories. She reads him poetry. Well, Mozart had been very busy. So what does he do? He says, you know what? I'm just going to chill out a little bit. I'm going to take a nap on the couch. So he lays down on the couch, falls asleep, doesn't come up until the sun comes the next morning, the day of the premiere. So Mozart freaks out. He grabs some coffee. He sits down, and then he writes the overture in about 2 hours. Things that would take other composers weeks to do, months to do. He rattles it out in 2 hours, runs it off to the copyist, who writes down a bunch of copies for the musicians to play, and then they perform it that night. What you were just listening to is actually that opera. So again, Mozart, lots of crazy stuff about him. Any time you spend listening to his music is time well spent. It's really good for studying. It's really good just for chilling and relaxing. So if you get a chance, you want to put some music on, learn something new, put on some Mozart. It's going to be great for you. Anyway, not sure what we're listening to right now, but I'm going to go check it out. You take care of yourselves. Keep making some music, my friends. Bye-bye.